Welcome to another exciting edition to GroveCityHockey Presents
Hockey in our neck of the woods, and you, sir, were a very talked about person towards the end.
I'm a fifth-year senior, kind of. Well, it's my sixth year of college. Incredible.
Hey guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cutshield, for bringing you this episode. Make sure you check them out on the link below and use the promo code for 25% off your order. Used by all 32 NHL teams and players, Cutshield is the premier protective player clothing designed by players for players. Their innovative cut-resistant clothing has prevented serious injury to numerous players, including over 30 NHL players. Cutshield gives you the peace of mind to go out and play without worrying about injury. Use our promo code GroveCityHockey, all lowercase and no space, for an additional 25% off your order today. Welcome to GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, and with me is a very special guest. I've got Konixx's very own Nick Boyarsky. How you doing today, Nick?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. So we've been trying to set this interview up for the last couple of months. You had some things come up. I had some things come up. And then once we thought we were getting squared away, you had I got sick, and then you had some more things coming up. But finally, I got you on, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you, and I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, man, this is cool. Thank you for the invitation. Been looking forward to it all week since we scheduled it.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about Konixx and how Konixx got into the roller hockey industry.
Sure, absolutely. I guess the easiest way to explain it is, the brand itself, or the company itself, has actually been involved in roller hockey for decades. The parent company of Konixx was originally the parent company of Red Star Wheels, which, if you've been around longer than probably 2/3 of the guys that are listening to this podcast they'll remember Red Star Wheels. And my involvement in the branding of Konixx actually came out of the possible relaunching of Red Star with a new product, and I got involved through doing some product testing for them that ended up launching what was our original Pure wheel and a couple other wheels. So that kind of morphed from, hey, instead of continuing an old brand that most people aren't going to be aware of, let's start something new, give it its own identity, and something for the next generation. And it just kind of evolved from a couple wheel models to a pretty substantial brand in the sport now. Yeah,
and it's a great wheel. I bought a pair of Rebel 2 skates that have Konixx. I can't remember the name of the wheel, but I got a chance to bust them out not too long ago, and they're phenomenal.
I appreciate the compliment. That is our goal.
Yeah. Cool. So tell us a little bit about your products, because you have several different lines of inline wheels. And I will touch base that I do remember Red Star. I think they were one of the first ones to go with the micro bearings back in the day too.
Risky move on their part. Yeah, they were. It was kind of, I think, the whole sport at the same time was trying to figure out, is this going to work? Is this just a gimmick? And we kind of know where that ended up. But yeah, they were one of the early adopters of that. I do remember that.
Yeah. Again, tell us a little bit about your Konixx wheels, and the line going, and from your premium wheel down to the more affordable wheel for those that are just looking to play recreationally.
Absolutely. I think one of the things with roller hockey is we all, those of us that are kind of ensconced in the sport and live and breathe in it, we tend to kind of live in the top of the pyramid whirl where, everybody's a phenomenally good hockey player. Everyone lives and breathes the sport. Everybody spends ridiculous amounts of money on it and doesn't even bat an eye because they love it. We tend to always look at the sport from that top of the pyramid, little top of that triangle. And realistically, that is a small percentage of the sport. You know, the guy that plays once a week at an old roller rink with a disco ball at the center of it, you know, and somewhere in the Midwest in a town you didn't even know had roller hockey. That is a consumer. That is someone that's actually buying stuff. Those of us at the top of the pyramid, you know, nobody's paying full price or paying for much of anything at the top of that. So Konixx as a brand, we're known at the top of that pyramid, but that is, like I said, that is where the promotional part of the sport goes, and we do make a good product for that. The players that are kind of in the that pyramid, the guys that are playing outdoors in the park, guys that are playing once a week in a rink, guys that are playing, you know, on an outdoor cement rink with chain link, you know, fence and whatever. Those are people buying wheels. So with Konixx, we have basically 3 tiers of wheels to simplify it. We have what we call our MVP line, it's got an acronym, maximum value and performance. I remember we made fun of that. MVP is basically it's comparable to a stock wheel. It's a replacement. It's a $5.50 retail wheel. It's something for someone that's their budget. That's what I'm paying for a wheel. I'm out skating around the park, or I'm on this outdoor tile and nothing seems to work on it. I just need something cheap. That's what that line is for. In no way, shape, or form does a $5.50 wheel perform like a $14 wheel. It's just like a Honda Civic and a Ferrari are both cars, but they are different cars. So that's our MVP line. We do a tile surface wheel, and that is a very bold statement to call that a tile surface wheel, but it is a 74A. We do a multi-surface of the same wheel. It's a 78, and we do an outdoor version of it that's an 82A for outdoor. And like I said, there's a customer base for that. Where I think kind of our strongest point, and our high-end stuff is great, but we have a really good middle-of-the-road product line in our Rocket 2X outdoor wheel that I will put any challenge out there. That wheel lasts longer than any other outdoor wheel, and I challenge anyone to tell me differently. That Rocket 2X is in our mid-end for abrasive and outdoor surfaces. We have our E-Flux wheel, which is, to my knowledge, the only wheel on the market that is actually formulated for, tested for, and was developed for use on coated concrete.
Okay.
So that's your old roller rinks with the blue, painted floor. That is your wood floor with the varnish over the top. And that's your smooth concrete. So that wheel is not just, kind of a little bit softer version of a Rocket. That's actually a completely different formula, different additives to it. And I'm really proud of that wheel. The first rink I ever played at was a roll-on surface roller rink, and there was never a good wheel for it. So when we were doing product development, that was one of the ones and talking to a lot of people in the middle of that pyramid, the guys that are playing twice a week on those roller rink floors, their choices were a hard wheel, and it was fast, but you had really not a lot of grip, or a soft indoor wheel to where it was so slow and grippy, you almost can't do anything. So this is kind of that middle of the road. It gives you the hardness of a harder wheel with a compression of a little bit softer wheel. And for guys that play on those floors that have used the E-Flux, they're sitting there going, yep, he's right. I love that wheel. That's one of those that just really works. And again, designed for those floors. And then we have our new Comet, Comet wheel, which is our, kind of our middle of the road tile surface wheel. It's actually poured on the same formula, our U-Base 5 that's used on our Pulsar X as of right now, which is I'll talk about in a minute. That Comet wheel is phenomenally good at, I believe, $7.50 retail US a wheel. That is giving you, not to call out other brands and wheels, but I would put that up against what other guys have out there for $10 or $11 as far as performance and durability at, $2.50, $3 less a wheel. So that's kind of our middle of the road lineup. And that is where, like I said, more guys than anything, that's about $7.50, $8. That's about what they want to spend on a wheel. They look at our high end and other brands high end and go, that's almost what I paid for my skates for those wheels. I'm not paying for wheels that are that expensive. And that's a reality. That is where the majority of the people that play are.
Right.
So those are, and then our high end, I'm gonna have visitors. They're gonna come in and out. They're just guest stars.
It's all good.
The upper end of our wheel line, our Pure X, our Pulsar X, and our Pure X Street A lot of guys that are really involved in the sport, those are the wheels they're more familiar with that we do, and they're great wheels. Pulsar X with its proprietary K-Core hub, and the Pure X that I think everyone kind of knows us for, and the Pure X Street, the outdoor version of that, are great wheels, and we really do, that is our bread and butter, is that part of the line. But we want to have something for everyone playing. We're not just there for the guys at the top of that pyramid.
Yeah, which is awesome, because when you think about it, 8 wheels at $10 a pop, it's $80 just for your skates, and most guys can't even afford that nowadays with the way the inflation is going. Or they're just trying to maximize the longevity of it too, and sometimes they push the wheels a bit too far, and then they start to crumble after 2 or 3 seasons, or 3 or 4 seasons of being on the same wheel, especially going from one surface to another surface if they're doing multi-type surfaces. So
and that's one of the things I think that a lot of us, a lot of people that play the sport don't sometimes put 2 and 2 together. Just because you're on tile, yes, you need a soft wheel, but if you're on tile and you are 150 pounds versus you are on tile and you are 250 pounds, you should not be using the same wheel. Those two players should not be using the same wheel. The physics is probably the wrong word, but the characteristics of what a wheel is doing on tile is compressing. You need some wheel compression. That is a hard surface on that tile. You need a soft wheel. It's going to compress. That compression, you're now stopping on, instead of a tiny area, you're stopping on a wider area. When that compression happens and pushes back out, that is your grip and your release. Every time that happens, you are literally playing tug of war with that floor, your body weight, the momentum from that, the pressure from that. That is what will pull a wheel apart eventually. That is what will crack a wheel. And back to what I was saying, if you're 150 pounds, the amount of pressure you're putting on a stop and a turn is different than when you're 250 pounds and you're putting that same stop and turn. So like on our Pure X line, that is why we have 0, 1, and 2 for our stiffnesses, is if you're that 150 pound guy, you're there on a +0. You're a 195 pound guy, you're there on our +1. There is a reason that we make those 2 wheels. That +1 is going to compress a little bit less for you at your body weight and not bottom out and not slow you down. And if you're 200, 205 plus, our +2 is actually stiff enough that it does what you need it to do. It'll actually perform the same way. But if we put everybody from that 150 to 250 on our +0, only 60% of our customers would be happy with their wheel. The other 40% would not.
Yeah, because those bigger guys are going to blow through those wheels so much faster.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you put a 150 pound on your +2, they're not going to get the same. You're not going to get any bounce back, push back, because it's all designed for those that are heavier than 160 pounds, essentially.
Yep, that's exactly what that is, and I think that's again where to kind of bring back what I was saying a minute ago, our Rebel wheel, which is our MVP tile surface wheel, that's a very low rebound urethane formula. And what I mean by low rebound is if you've ever been bored and sit there with your wheel and just bounce it off the ground and catch it, a low rebound wheel is going to bounce a lot less. We take a high-end wheel, do that same bounce at the same pressure, it's going to rebound and bounce way higher. So, one, it's not just how soft the wheel is, it's how much rebound is in the wheel. So in at least for us, in our different formulas that we have, there's, a very low rebound, there's a high rebound, there's an extra high rebound, and those are traits within the urethane, but they're also things that involve more costs. The higher rebound the wheel, the more expensive the materials are for it.
Yep. And usually with the higher cost comes those guys that are going to those tournaments. They want to put in that effort to be the best that they can be, when they go and play other teams from different countries, different states, different areas. It's anybody can be the biggest fish in their small pond, but you're still a minnow when you go out in the real world and play, across country, So, but yeah, so tell us a little bit more wheels is not necessarily the only avenue you guys have, right? You guys have other products available as well.
Correct. Yeah. So back to the original when Red Star kind of phased out and we started Konixx, the parent company, Hockey on Wheels, also had the Hilo bearing and accessory line, which was a little bit in the roller hockey world at the retail end, but was in a lot of sporting goods store chains and inline skating facilities. So that Hilo brand of bearing and accessory was kind of there and there to begin with. We started Konixx with a Konixx bearing line when we were a little targeting more direct to consumer. So we had no retail packaging. They came in little tubes. It was cheaper to ship. But as we kind of left our direct to consumer model and said, okay, sport's not quite big enough for just direct to consumer. We're going to pivot into retail. They were looking for better packaged and more easily displayed and sold. So we transitioned the bearing into the Hilo line and kind of brought Hilo back into the roller hockey world. So fast forward to now, we've got 4 bearing models, standard ABEC 7, ABEC 9, and Swiss. And then we have our Quark bearing, which is, without getting too techy, the best bearing you can use in the sport we play for the uses we have. $65 retail, I would put that up against any $100, $150 ceramic bearing. Absolutely. It's better than, other than your actual Swiss precision bearings that you're paying a lot of money for. This is your next best bearing to that. It's a fully serviceable indoor bearing, has some unique traits to it. One of which, the main one being the bearing cage itself, the little thing that the ball bearings sit in, is actually a different material than what every other bearing uses. And again, without going into the weeds on that, basically what all that equates to is when that bearing is heated up and all that friction in there makes that normal bearing cage a little soft and pliable, which slows you down a little bit. That harder bearing cage just locks those balls in and makes sure that everything is spinning at the same precision level when it was cold as it is when it was hot. So that Quark bearing, and again, that's one of those that don't take my word for it. Find somebody that's used them, ask them what they think of them. They're going to do my job for me. They're going to tell you what they like about it, and that's been its best advertising, honestly.
Now, are those
accessories?
Are those bearings sealed?
No, they're. That's a great question. Should have brought that up. They're open shielded on one side. This is a bearing that is built to be used long term, serviced, cleaned, relubricated, and used again. I have one of the guys that originally did product development and testing on that bearing, who's pretty OCD about just cleaning all his stuff and relubing his stuff and taking care of stuff. He was on that same set of tester bearings for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Until he left his skates out during a tournament to dry out, and it started pouring rain, and everything got soaked, and they got too rusted to use. But his goal was, I'm going to use these forever. He had recleaned them and relubed them at least a dozen times, and he said they still worked as good on that last game before the rain as they did on day one. So that is open shielded on one side, so you can actually clean them and then relubricate them afterwards and continue to use them. And if you do that, that bearing will last essentially as long as you keep doing that.
Yeah, I remember getting a set of tested bearings when I was playing in like 2010, and had that one-sided shielded bearing style, and absolutely loved them. They were a phenomenal bearing. My wheels kept spinning for minutes after, and that's what that's what it did, and it just spun. And then because it's hard to lubricate a sealed bearing. You had to take it apart, pop it out with the press, and all that stuff. But with that, you get your bearing wash out, get the dust out, get the dirt out, because roller hockey is a magnet for dust, especially with the polyurethane wheels. You're literally just slicing off just a thin layer of wheel each time you're coming to those hockey stops. And then over time, those shavings, create that dust. Plus, you got, skin debris and all that stuff, lint flying everywhere, gets sucked up in there. And then, getting a good bearing wash and getting a good lube in there helps protect those bearings and make them last for a really long time, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, well, and not to throw rinks under the bus, because God love every one of them for staying open, but find me a rink that's well cleaned and well upkept. Right. Other than the Peoria Sportsplex in Phoenix, Arizona, we can give them props. They keep their rink clean.
But the majority of rinks are not the cleanest, right? And especially if you've got the 11 p.m. game, that rink was at best cleaned 20 hours ago.
Exactly.
You're going to get a day's worth of hard skate skate dust everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So to your point, that cleaner, and that pivots me back to the Hilo line. We actually have a really good bearing cleaning kit, and actually an upgrade to that, a new replacement kit will be coming out next year. Kind of excited about that. It's been an older product that needed a revamp, so that'll be one that revamps. But for now, we still have the original Hilo Rocket Clean Kit, which is a bearing environmentally safe bearing cleaning solution. Little scooper to make it easier to get the bearings in and out. And then re-lubricant, our Hilo Lightspeed bearing oil, which again is a great synthetic, works good on our bearings, works on everybody else's bearings as well. And then we have, our standard skate tool and things like that accessories have. We have some new stuff coming out early next year that'll be something I can't talk about yet, but be coming out in a few months. Maybe when that stuff's ready to come out, I'll reach back out to you and I can talk about it a little bit more. But with all those accessory type products, we're always looking at, and people that have interacted with me at tournaments will attest to this. We're always asking the question, like, what do you want in the sport that's not out there? Like, tell me about a product you wish you could buy, or tell me about a product you used to buy. Wheel grip solution was one of the things that a lot of people told me. So we spent last 6-8 months working on a new product for that. That's one I can talk about that's going to come out, our Hilo Stick It. That'll be an early 2025 product. And again, that's something that others have, and there's other good products out there that have it. I really like what we have. The guys that helped us do product testing for it really, really sung to how well it worked and how well they could feel the difference from the shift before to the shift after using it. There is no such thing as something that takes an old worn out wheel and makes it grip again, but there is something that will remove the surface coating that gets on your wheel after a while. To your point, that dust, or depending on the cleaning solution that some rinks use on their floor cleaners, that can coat the floor a little bit and that gets on your wheels. So that's another product that we have. And then beyond the Hilo line, we also have some Konixx specific product. We have our K1 Pro pant, that I can talk about. And we have a follow up to that'll come out at a little lower price point at some point next year. That K1 Pro, are you familiar? Have you seen that pant at all in any anything?
So I have been out of the game since 2015. Came back in 2022. Have not played a game, just because I had to have major back surgery in 2015. I had to walk away from the game because if I didn't, I would never heal, and then I would never be able to play with my kids. Now that I have a 4.5-year-old and a 14-month-old, it was one of those things where I just had to walk away. I didn't even watch hockey in that entire 7 years until just a couple years ago, and the GCH was reaching out for some volunteers, and I said, I'll give it a whirl, and started broadcasting with them, and then that turned into hosting the podcast and doing interviews and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where if I get a chance to catch it on like Hockey Monkey or Pure Hockey, I do tend to, like, I was looking through skates, and I was looking at a couple of pants here and there. I want to say I did see the Pro V one, but I'm a bigger guy now. Once I hurt myself, I got even fatter. So the pants weren't necessarily something that I was really looking to, because I wasn't looking to play. I think now I'm going to do one tournament, probably late next year, just to kind of like, because my son will be a little bit older. My daughter will start having some core memories. So it's something that I'm going to do, one more tournament, and then I'm officially done, because like that'll be on my terms instead of somebody else's terms, instead of my back saying.
Get you behind a bench at that point. Stay involved, coach.
Right.
Stay in the loop there. That's perfect. Well, that K1 Pro is our product that kind of brought us into the outside of the wheel and bearing world of the sport. That came from, I've been involved in roller hockey for multiple decades now. And, for those of us that have been around for a while, you remember what pants, I remember literally when roller hockey pants were something that guys started wearing, Mach 1 pants, Blue Line, and some other brands that, kind of started the shell cover. The pant line, and then all the other brands got in. And pants used to have, a lot of time and energy and work that went into them. Mission, back in the day, made some truly amazing pants as far as just the panels, the graphics, the piping, and the quality that used to go into stuff like that. But even in the early 2000s, you used to have $120 pair of roller hockey pants, and that, if we kind of adjust for the economy now, that would be probably like a $200 roller hockey pant now. Which
easily.
Nobody in the world. Well, sadly, some people would actually buy that, but there used to be really high-end pants, was basically my point. And what has happened over the last 8 to 10 years is, as the sport kind of shrunk, retailers didn't want to give it as much floor space. Online retailers didn't want to spend as much dollars on inventory, and pants just became this $50, $40, kind of cheap nylon. But hey, it's cheap. No belt, just a drawstring.
Yep.
Keep it tight. Got a or weird belts on the side that don't tighten well and hurt and whatever. Pants just got kind of mailed in. Some of that's a lot more custom uniforms started getting sold, and a lot of guys had 3 different teams they play on that bought pants. So why do they need to spend more money on pants? I just kind of looked at it from, I had a lot of people again asking, what would you want if you ran a roller hockey company or a brand? What would you make? What would you want to make? Because your friends are asking for it, or your teammates said somebody should make this. And what a lot of them said is, I wish someone made a good pant. I wish there was a pant that actually, held up. Like I'm tired of buying $40 pants. They last me 8 games and they rip. So that K1 Pro kind of came from that. We really kind of deconstructed a roller hockey pant, started from scratch, worked with our designer to say, okay, if we were going to invent the roller hockey pant, say nobody had made one before, what traits would that pant have? What would we want it to have? So we built something that has a compression leg, so that you really don't have to, if you buy your pant appropriately fitting, you don't really have to tape your pant. It'll lock that shin guard in. Now, it also might mean, if you actually buy correctly, that you've got to put your pants on, pull them down, get your shin guards on, pull the pant back up over it. Little bit of a hassle getting dressed, but once you're playing, you don't have tape coming off. You don't have to mid shift be the guy. Anyone got any clear? Like you've got a pant that actually sticks. And then above the knee, something that actually moves. Guys made a tight fitting pant, which was great on the legs, but it didn't help you much unless you were the perfect shape for those pants. It didn't help you much in the from the thigh to the waist. So we kind of built a pant that fits like a baggy pant above there and gives you range of motion, but down below the knee gives you that compression. And then we used, again, really good materials that are going to be worth the money. It's an $85 retail pant, but I would challenge anybody to find anything that's worth that money from anybody else. And beyond that, just some cool features: a pull cord with a little ball to tighten, so no belt that you have to worry about, but no knots you're trying to do and undo every time. One of the features, one of my buddies, shout out to Tommy Toohey, I think this was his suggestion, was a little pocket, just something that that you could put your phone in between games if you're playing tournaments, or even if you're playing at the local park rink and don't want to leave your phone sitting by your shoes and your shorts. You have somewhere you can put that inside the pant. And when you're between games, if you're sitting around a tournament, you can flip that pocket to the outside. You can just have your phone, your wallet, whatever, sitting right there. So just little things like that we kind of took feedback from different players and different people, did a lot of product development to figure out what is just the right amount of tightness on the knee, what was too tight, what was not tight enough. So that's another product that I feel like we made because there was a demand for it. We made the product that people said, hey, if I was doing this, this is what I would want. And that's always our goal with anything we're making, is don't just make it to make it, make something people are actually going to want.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about your pro teams. You have, I believe, at least 2 pro teams. You have the Konixx Rage Cats. They're playing in the pro. Those guys are based out of Detroit, Michigan. Some of the guys grew up in the Border Cats organization. And then you have the Konixx Outcasts out there in Arizona, in MIHA, right?
Yeah, so on the tournament pro end, we have at this point we have two kind of teams under our banner that are our premier pro level teams, and that is as you said, the Rage Cats from the Midwest, and from the Midwest is relative to the guys that organize that team, and that is that's a program that on me personally came from Matt Kolesky's Border Cats program, and Matt is one of those guys that I just had so much respect for, and as a roller hockey coach that kind of started coaching as Matt was already an established coach, having played against his teams for years. I just had so much respect for the guy and what he was able to do with his teams, and how loyal and respectful his players were to him. And you can, after his passing, see how much he meant to all those guys and over the years. So when the Rage Cats, through Drew Height and some of the guys that were part of that Rage Cats, Border Cats group, came to me and said, hey, we're looking for a new sponsor to partner with, that was just a no-brainer. I mean, Not only does it carry on Matt's legacy, but Drew Height and Lane Hartwell, two guys that were part of building that team. Drew and Lane were playing for me at ASU at the time.
Yeah.
That was just an easy no-brainer. And the rest of the guys on that team, they've got such amazing young talent mixed with, some veteran guys that are really good, and some kind of not as young as they used to be, but still very good and just still getting better every time they play. Your Sopers, your Glovers, guys like that are, sorry guys, you're not the youngsters anymore, but they're just starting to now hit their stride as far as really seeing what they were capable of. And then with Hartwell and net, it's a great team. Really happy to be partnered with them. And then on the East Coast, we have a Konixx Black Ice partnership, or Unify Konixx Black Ice partnership, that, again, gives us that premier pro team to be involved with. So now we have two teams that tend to just always make whatever that top four is in that event. You're going to see those two teams in that top four most likely.
Yes.
So that's, those two teams are kind of our, and then you mentioned the Konixx Outcast, which is actually does play in some pro tournaments. We used to have a Konixx Factory team, and as kind of guys got older and split off and things became a little harder to keep a team together, those guys have kind of branched off. Some of them are playing for Palma now, some are playing for the Roadrunners now, so they've kind of gone off to other places, and happy to see them still playing. A couple of them jump in and out of teams I coach once in a while to help out. And then we've got our kind of our newer project that Jay Miro and I are doing together from Black Ice, the Black Ice 2.0, which is something I'm kind of passionate about and excited about being involved with, which is kind of a farm program for both my Konixx Outcast Youth program on the West Coast and Jay Miro's Black Ice program on the East Coast. We both have a lot of really talented 16, 17, 18-year-old kids coming up through our programs, and we're looking at where do those guys fit, because they are future pros, and we can tell by just watching them play over the years, these guys are going to be pro players in the next 3 or 4 years. Jay Miro's got a powerhouse there in Black Ice. How are any of those kids going to ever crack that lineup until some of those guys age out, and by then they're in their mid to late 20s hoping to get a spot. So we wanted to find a way to keep our players, in our stable and make sure that, we can continue their path that they're on. So that 2.0 team is giving both of our programs an outlet. So we're working on that team together, and we've got some really good younger talent in there, not just, obviously on the floor talent, but also just really passionate, really good organizing. Sammy Phillips, Justin, some of the guys on that team, Marvin Simmons, the old vet in his mid-20s on that team. Those guys have been really good at being passionate about wanting to build a good team and wanting to build something sustainable and not just stack up for one tournament and go play. Like they're looking at it long term. So I'm excited to be involved with that. And for MIHA, we do have I think the gang got back together. As I always tell guys, the men's Outcast team is not so much me as it is Alex Dote, who coached Outcast with me and ASU with me for years, kind of heads that MIHA along with some of the players, Tommy Toohey and some of the guys from Phoenix have that men's MIHA team Outcast that I believe is back and playing this year.
Yeah, I saw the West Coast standings just the other day when I was looking at the Michigan Fury because Corey Hodge was playing with the Fury this past weekend. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I better just take a look at the standings here and see what's going on. You guys haven't really had too much action out there on the West Coast yet, but it's coming. I think this next weekend, you guys are this coming weekend or this next weekend.
Sounds right. I think the guys had said something about that. Yeah, I know, and again, I'm not super involved in that, but I believe the dynamic is they got to go to Colorado to play a decent amount. So they, instead of going there 4 times, will go there 1 or 2 times and play a shit ton of games in one day. So it's always a risk. You could have a great weekend where everyone's, showed up and healthy and whatever. You could go there and play 6 games and have 5 guys show up and one of them get hurt and who knows. But I always, leave it to those guys. They always figure it out between Mooney and Tui and the rest of them. They always put a good product out on the floor. So I'm excited to see how they do this year.
Yeah, it's like you said, because I remember playing in AIHL, going down to Pittsburgh to play at the Hot Shots Arena, which just now closed. We had to play. We came in as a minor team, but we played minor pro, 4 games back in a row, so 4 hours straight. And one of the games went into overtime. Our last game went into overtime, and it was brutal, but it was so much fun. And we had we were short. We were short bench too, and our goalie Alex Townsend was just was spent. I think we had to basically carry him off the rink.
Every time I'm in one of those OT situations and the guys are on the bench just dying.
Mm-hmm.
You have empathy for him, but you also look at him and go, you realize you at least get to sit.
Mm-hmm.
That guy doesn't ever get to come off the rink. And when you inevitably do get scored on, if it happens, it is going to be his fault in everybody's eyes. But
yeah,
this poor guy's been out there without a break. You guys are at least getting one. So props to goalies in those OTs. I don't think, win or lose, I don't think they get enough credit for how much they are actually weighing on their shoulders every minute of that OT as it clicks by. A little bit more pressure gets put on those shoulders.
Yeah. And with that, any final words? Because again, we have nothing but mad respect for our goaltenders. But yeah, any final words before we close out this episode? Because Jude and I both have a couple of things that we gotta to catch up on. So,
no, just I think in general, if I'm going to leave you with anything, it's this: for people that are involved in roller hockey, you are in the sport at a really good time right now. I think we're going to see a lot of exciting things happen in roller hockey, especially in the U.S. Over the next 3 or 4 years. I think we've got kind of the right people in the right places doing the right things in this sport, and we've got, we've kind of found how we fit into the world of ice hockey, both recreational and upper tier ice hockey. I think we're now in a place where the sport kind of has hit its stride, so to speak, no pun intended. And we're going to have some really exciting stuff, again, at the top of that pyramid that will filter down into the bottom of it. So good time to be involved in it and, excited to see what happens in the future.
Cool. And one final thing, where can we get your products?
That's a very good question. So Konixx is available in the U.S., at least I should say. Direct from us at Konixx.com, obviously. We have a ton of retail partners. In fact, rather than call them all out, on Konixx.com, there is a dealer directory on there by state, and if you're international, by country, that we try our very best to keep up to date. That'll show you, within your state where our products are sold. If you want to go to a physical brick and mortar and buy them and walk away with them.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we have some great e-tailer partners in, Hockey Monkey, Pure Hockey, Inline Warehouse, just recently Pirani's we added to our inline stable. So between those 4 guys, you are going to find our products. And as always, our goal is to put the best product we can put out there at the lowest price tag we can get away with and still stay in business.
Cool. Well, Nick Boyarsky, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about Konixx inline hockey wheels and products that you guys have, especially with the Hilo bearings. Something that and a couple of sneak peeks with some future products that are coming up with the sticky wheels situation. I think that's going to be pretty cool.
Yep. Check. I'll reach back out to you next year. We got some, like I said, some exciting stuff in the works that it's just not quite ready to talk about yet. But once we are, I will definitely reach out and we'll talk on that too.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I will not be able to hold my excitement for that, because I'm always about what can we talk about that nobody else is talking about.
Very
You
cool.
know, so I love talking about new and new innovative products. You know, especially or tournaments that most people may not even know about. So that's something that this podcast is kind of trying to gear towards, so that way we can get the word out, spread the information, and let the inline community do its thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for what you're doing for the sport as well.
Cool. Appreciate it. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Ben W. Stock. That's Nick Boyarsky from Konixx. We will catch you guys on the flip side. That's going to do it for this episode of GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, alongside Chris Greco. Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe on all our platforms on YouTube and on Spotify. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Cheers.